What's going on, everyone? Welcome back. Today, we've got another live fantasy football mock draft for you back on Fantasy Pros with a 12-team half-point PPR mock with the 9th overall pick. Roster-wise, same as always. 1 quarterback, 2 RBs, 2 wide receivers, a tight end, a flex, and then 5 bench spots. It's pretty much all you need to know, so let's get right into it. And while we load, a quick reminder, if you enjoy, hit that like button, subscribe. Let us hear it in the comment section with any questions you guys might have. And also check us out online at alldaypigskin.com, where we will have our 2021 ADP Fantasy Football Draft Guide available for purchase very soon. So keep an eye out for that. More details to come. And also give us a follow on Twitter at alldaypigskin to continue interacting with us there. But it's our turn to make a selection. Let's quickly look at what has taken place with the first couple of picks and see if there's anything egregious that has occurred. So Christian McCaffrey, Dalvin Cook, Barkley, Kamara, Jonathan Taylor, Derrick Henry. Nothing too crazy here. You know, Jonathan Taylor, you can make the case he should be going a little bit later. But then with the 7th and 8th pick, Tyreek Hill at the 107 again, not necessarily any issues with that. I would be going running back heavy in the first round. And I say that every single season. This year is no different. But then the big issue here that I have, and probably everyone would agree, Najee Harris with the 108. That is way, 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 way too early for Najee Harris. There are way too many proven running backs with better situations than him. Ezekiel Elliott, Nick Chubb, Aaron Jones, Eckler, Akers, Mixon, Gibson, Swift, even Clyde Edwards-Helaire and Chris Carson. I would rather take over Najee Harris 10 times out of 10. So I think that is honestly a very bad pick. But again, kind of a situation where, you know, there's some built-in variability with these computer selections. So we have a chance here to make a pick of our own. And, you know, I kind of alluded to it. We're going to go running back heavy. And I feel like in the last couple of mock drafts that we've done, I've continued to take Austin Eckler here. And I've given you guys the reasons why. Even in half-point PPR, I still really like Eckler. But just to switch it up here a little bit, because also, low-key, I kind of think that Eckler might be available to us in the second round, let's get another running back. And here, out of all these running backs that are available, I actually have Ezekiel Elliott ranked the highest. You know, I like his pass-catching ability more so than Nick Chubb's. I think he's going to have a higher workload than Aaron Jones. And I think he's more of a sure thing than, let's say, Cam Akers or Gibson or Swift or Dobbins, et cetera, et cetera. So here, we're not going to think about this one too much. We're taking Ezekiel Elliott with our first selection. It'll be more so interesting what happens in the second round. And you guys see the names that are popping up in terms of recommendations, and you already know which way I am going here. But quickly looking at the next couple of picks after Ezekiel Elliott, Devonte Adams with the 110, that makes sense. You know, here we see Tyreek Hill as the first wide receiver off the board. I kind of understand that. You know, it's so tough in terms of wide receivers to repeat as the first overall scoring wide receiver in fantasy year to year. And maybe there's some, you know, trepidation about Adams and potentially Aaron Rodgers leaving, even though I've been on record saying that I don't think that that will happen. And Tyreek Hill, what we saw from him last season in terms of some consistency and some high reception numbers, very encouraging. So I understand why Hill could potentially be your 101 in terms of wide receivers. Then you see Nick Chubb, Aaron Jones, makes sense. Then run on wide receivers, Diggs, Hopkins, Brown, and that puts us in a great situation. And what I mean by that is we can go, you know, potentially Travis Kelce or an Austin Eckler. And I alluded to it again. If Eckler falls to us in the second round, I think that is an absolute steal. And I realize that, again, our last couple of rosters have all included Austin Eckler on them. But guys, this is just tremendous value. And that's why I'm going to continue to highlight it. The goal of this is to continue to take best player available and to just put together the best roster available. And to me, without question, Austin Eckler has the highest upside at this point in time at the most important position. So we are going Eckler here. And then in the third round, we can look at wide receiver options, which, you know, could very well be slimmer pickings than we would like, but that's all right because, you know, our running back position is so deep that, you know, it'll probably carry our team. Then, just quickly recapping what happened in the second round, you see Calvin Ridley, Travis Kelce, tremendous value on Kelce. If Ridley, actually sees Julio Jones leave, that is the Atlanta Falcons offense via trade, then this ADP will be justified for Calvin Ridley. If not, I think it is way too early for Ridley. And in fact, I think we can make the case that Ridley and Julio Jones, if they stay on the Falcons together, then they should be drafted one right after the other. Afterwards, you see Cam Akers, DK Metcalf, Michael Thomas. Great value on Michael Thomas. Mahomes, way too early, folks. I continue to say it. You're going to see this happen in a lot of mock drafts. Don't be the person that takes a quarterback in the second round. This is a one quarterback league. It's not a super flex situation, so don't take a quarterback in the second round. Then you see J.K. Dobbins, Joe Mixon. Way too early for Dobbins, in my opinion. This is half-point PPR. So, there is going to be a premium on some of those pass-catching running backs, which Dobbins is not. And then afterwards, we see Kittle, Justin Jefferson. Good value on him in the third round. Gibson, Montgomery. Way too early for Montgomery, I would say. Allen Robinson, Keenan Allen, Darren Waller, and Clyde Edwards-Helaire. So as things stand right now, there's a couple guys that I'm looking at. And Terry McLaurin would be one of them. But the other guy is Julio Jones. And I'll say this right now. As we are filming this, recording this, Julio Jones is still on the Atlanta Falcons. That's all I care about. I'm drafting the current situation of players. I don't want to speculate for the future. I don't want to draft based on that. And I recommend you guys do the same, or at least wait until a situation is clear. But since this is just a mock draft, I'm highlighting the best value. And right now, it is Julio Jones as he is on the Atlanta Falcons. I think probably Julio Jones, his best situation in terms of production is in Atlanta. That's consistently like top 5 in terms of pass attempts year after year, with a Matt Ryan who loves to sling it. I mean, Julio Jones, I've said this before, when he was healthy last season, he averaged 10 receptions for over 100 yards per game. That's absolutely insane. That's wide receiver 1 elite production. I will take him this season, no issue about it. So we land Julio Jones. Now, let's take a look at what we have here left available to us. I want to see if there's any running backs that potentially have slipped. If not, then we're going to continue addressing the wide receiver position. We saw DeAndre Swift go, Miles Sanders, then a run on wide receivers. Terry McLaurin, Mike Evans, Kenny Golladay, DJ Moore. In my opinion, Kenny Golladay way too early, going to the Giants with a downgraded quarterback with a crowded pass-catching room from wide receivers to tight ends. And then also, the Giants are heavily going to utilize Saquon Barkley. You could say the same for Mike Evans. Too many mouths to feed in Tampa Bay. The first wide receiver that should be drafted from Tampa Bay in any type of PPR scoring should be Chris Godwin. I stand by that. So now, again, our turn to make a selection. Chris Carson here is very, very tempting. And I'm not going to lie to you guys. I actually have Chris Carson quite high in my rankings. I think he's a borderline top 10 running back. Back in Seattle, I'm not all that worried about Rashad Penny because, the Seahawks didn't really decide to keep him around for the future. So I think, that's kind of reading the writing on the wall. I'm looking at Robert Woods. He's very tempting, but what I'm hoping could potentially happen is that Cooper Kupp falls to us in the next round. Because to me, Robert Woods, Cooper Kupp, pretty much one in the same. And there's a discrepancy between their rankings, which I don't think should be the case. We will see what happens here. Maybe that hurts us a little bit. But I'm going to go with Chris Carson here. If I would say if this was maybe the real deal, I wouldn't play it this risky. I would probably go wide receiver, but since, again, this is a mock draft and we do these exercises to see if it pays off, I'm going to gamble with Chris Carson and see who is left available to us afterwards and whether it was a risk worth taking. If not, oh well, we're capable enough to go ahead and fill out our roster with some other hidden talent. And I'll tell you guys right now, we will have to do that because once we selected Chris Carson in the 4th round, you see Deontay Johnson, Chris Godwin, Amari Cooper, sure, Josh Jacobs, Robert Woods. Great value on Robert Woods there. CeeDee Lamb, Cortland Sutton, Kareem Hunt. Then couple of the guys that I was looking at, Thielen, Cooper Kupp, Tyler Lockett, all go with the first 3 picks in the 5th round. Tremendous value for all of them. I love that. Then you see Josh Allen, the second quarterback off the board, Deebo Samuel, T. Higgins, ETN, and Chase Edmonds. But this is one of the reasons why I wanted to take Chris Carson, because consider the drop-off in production and upside between a Chris Carson and even a Josh Jacobs, a Kareem Hunt, an ETN, a Chase Edmonds. I think it is night and day. We have got our flex locked down. And, if anything happens to our running back position, we have got depth. So I'm not too worried about it here. However, I do think we should be looking at the wide receiver position. And there's a couple guys that kind of stick out. Brandon Ayuk, Jamar Chase is pretty tempting. I'm not going to lie. The more I'm looking at Chase and kind of looking at his projections, the more I like him. And I think he's going to be available to me in the next round. So here, what I really like to do right around this point, especially if I'm not going to have to wait all that long between my next selection, is go a tight end and TJ Hawkinson, which I would do in the 6th round either way. So basically kind of just looking at the position of need a little bit more so and prioritizing it in that matter. So here, that's what we're going to do. Again, TJ Hawkinson, if you guys have watched our previous mocks, you know how much we love him this season. We think he has got Darren Waller breakout potential. So let's go with TJ Hawkinson here, who honestly in our book is pretty much a low-end wide receiver 1 at the tight end position. That's super valuable. So, and I will say quickly that our gamble kind of pays off. It wasn't really a gamble, but Mike Davis, Odell Beckham, Myles Gaskin, the next picks, followed by Mark Andrews, Kyler Murray, Dak Prescott. And now that means we can still go wide receiver. And in fact, the only wide receiver that was taken off the board was Odell Beckham. Lamar Jackson is the next best available quarterback, and I do think he will potentially return to being elite this season on the ground and have an upgrade through the air as well. But because of the situation we put ourselves in with wide receiver, I'm going to look at quarterback later on. I really like, as I've mentioned before, a Justin Herbert, a Jalen Hurts, who has similar type of potential as Lamar Jackson on the ground. So we'll do that later. For now, I'm looking at, like I said, Brandon Ayuk, Jamar Chase, and kind of just trying to break it down. Who do I like more? I'd probably put Jamar Chase a little bit higher because, with Ayuk, he's got Deebo Samuel to contend with and George Kittle. Pretty similar situation with Jamar Chase. And who has more quarterback stability? It's the Bengals with Joe Burrow. So for that reason, I'm going Chase. I think Chase has a chance to be the wide receiver 1 for the Cincinnati Bengals. Out of all the guys there, I like his upside the most. So we're going to go with him here and then see what happens afterwards. And there's a couple of players here that I quickly want to touch on in terms of their ADP once we look at the draft board really quickly. And one of them, after our Jamar Chase selection, is Kyle Pitts, who you're going to see him skyrocket up draft boards if Julio Jones is actually traded. If not, this is probably where he should be going. But if Jones is gone, then Kyle Pitts pretty much becomes the second wide receiver on that team. The guy, don't let the tight end designation fool you. He is very capable of being a legitimate wide receiver. There's a reason why he was the first pass catcher taken off the board in this year's NFL draft. The guy is special. Then you see Noah Fant. So I'm happy we already got Hawkinson. We don't have to worry about the tight end position. In terms of wide receivers, Juju, Brendan Ayuk afterwards, Rodgers, Russell Wilson, DJ Shark, Javonte Williams, Claypool, Landry. Then you see Herbert, Joe Burrow. So both those guys off the board. James Robinson and Jerry Jeudy. So now we can, again, look at a position of need. Running back is up there. And look, Jalen Hurts is still available. I alluded to him before. I think he's a very high upside quarterback that we can take now and then back up with a solid proven veteran in the later rounds. That's exactly what I will do. And I should mention, there are some quarterbacks here. If you look lower, Jameis Winston, Cam Newton, Desean Watson, super, super high upside. These guys can all be top 15 quarterbacks. Personally, I don't think Mac Jones is going to get playing time this season. I think Cam Newton wins out the job. And I think he has a much better season than 2020. And then Desean Watson. If Desean Watson is actually allowed to play and all those charges against him are dropped, Desean Watson is going to be a top 5 quarterback selection. The fact that he's ranked 29 on Fantasy Pros, it's because of the off the field issues. If it wasn't for the off the field issues, and I don't think projections should really factor that in there. Projections should be based on a full 16 games played. And as of right now, since nothing has been said one way or the other, we kind of, as analysts, have to rank Watson in terms of his potential if he would play a full 16-game season. And if that's the case, again, the guy should be at least a top 10 quarterback. But for now, because we do want to play it safe, we'll take Jalen Hurts here, and then we will look at other positions afterwards. So I was really hoping Brennan Cooks would fall to us, but I didn't want to take a chance on Jalen Hurts not being available. So instead, we can look at another wide receiver here that I really like, and that is, probably no shock, Antonio Brown. With Antonio Brown, I've said it before, he should be drafted right with Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. I think in PPR scoring, the hierarchy goes Godwin, Brown, and then Mike Evans. So to me, Brown is someone with wide receiver 2 upside, just like Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. So let's add him to the team. It's probably going to be called a reach, but yeah, don't pay any attention to that. Come your drafts in September and in August, this is going to be a situation where Antonio Brown, there's no chance he's available this late. So now that we have that situation taken care of, we've gotten some depth at wide receiver, we can just continue to go best player available. I'm looking at some of these potential, running backs. Don't love Moss, don't love Dillon, don't love Singletary. Tony Pollard, though, someone as an Ezekiel Elliott owner here, I highly recommend handcuffing Zeke with Tony Pollard. And, it's probably a decent time to do so right now. I'd probably do it a little bit later if it was my actual draft, but here for the sake of highlighting the idea of handcuffing one of your top running backs when there is a clear-cut number 2 guy behind him that would pretty much get the exact same volume and expected production if something were to happen to the RB1 on the team. It's a good exercise, a good habit to get into. So let's get Tony Pollard kind of as our handcuff backup if anything happens to Ezekiel Elliott. We know we will not be in trouble there. And now turning our attention back to wide receiver, there's a receiver here that I want to give some love to. And specifically, it is one Josh Reynolds of the Tennessee Titans. I think as long as the Titans don't add anybody, here via trade or a late signing, Josh Reynolds is going to be the wide receiver 2 opposite A.J. Brown. Jonnu Smith is gone. Humphreys is gone. Corey Davis is gone. That's going to be some great value for Josh Reynolds. I'd much rather have him than Emmanuel Sanders, Alan Lazard, Perriman, Slayton, Mims, Christian Kirk, Henry Ruggs, even Jalen Reagor, Cole Beasley, or T.Y. Hilton, or Mike Williams. The guy that I'd potentially be looking at here is Marvin Jones, because I know I can get Josh Reynolds later on, and Marvin Jones is one of these guys that I really like and I think is very good value. So let's just, for the sake of being disciplined, take Marvin Jones right now. I know because of the way these rankings are made, Josh Reynolds will be available to us later on, and that's going to be our next selection. So quickly before doing that, I mentioned we should get another quarterback just to be safe. The guys that I would be considering here, none of these guys I really love. Probably either Tannehill or Matt Ryan would be the top choices. Cam Newton, Desean Watson, again, guys that I referenced before. I'll probably go, honestly, Desean Watson as he at this point in time is, he's a dart throw, 1,000%, but it's so late in the draft where I think it's worth that dart throw. So first, I'm going to go and take Josh Reynolds as my, kind of dark horse wide receiver, and it's probably going to be called a reach or something like that, even though at the end of the 11th round, I don't think you can really call any pick a reach. But here, let's kind of conclude things off with Desean Watson. So we're adding him. And then I'm curious to see what our draft grade will be. You know, it might be a little bit lower than it should be, which I think here when you look at it, you see a C minus. So I'm going to kind of break down why I think we got the grade that we did. So first and foremost, I don't think there's anything wrong with our selections of Ezekiel Elliott and Austin Eckler in the first 2 rounds. I think those are pretty much A+ picks. Then Julio Jones. I think that's kind of where it starts in terms of getting a little bit of a lower grade. And I will say, if Julio Jones is traded, I wouldn't be picking him there. But as of right now, he's on the Falcons. That's a very good pick in my opinion. Then Chris Carson in the 4th round. Again, probably the computer says, well, we already have 2 great running backs. Why add Chris Carson? You could be looking at another wide receiver. I agree. I think that was kind of the biggest decision I had to make in this draft. But ultimately, I went looking at the positional hierarchy. Chris Carson, running back, more important than I think wide receiver, who we can address later on. So I went Chris Carson. Then Hawkinson, I'm completely all right taking Hawkinson where I did. Jamar Chase, you could argue there's some other wide receivers we could have gone with. Jalen Hurts, again here, maybe potentially losing some points on our grade because Jalen Hurts, kind of that unproven second-year quarterback, doesn't have all that much upside in terms of passing, so not too much love there. But that's why we did back him up with another quarterback. Now, I guess it's a quarterback that's just as risky with Desean Watson, even more so. But still, again, I just want to highlight the idea of, until we hear anything specific, Watson presents good value and could be a potential steal. Then after our Jalen Hurts pick, Antonio Brown, again, FantasyPros has him ranked way too low. I'm going to continue to say that. Every single platform has Antonio Brown ranked way too low. He should be going in the 4th or 5th round right alongside Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. So to me, that is a great pick. Tony Pollard, again, probably a little bit too early because of the Ezekiel Elliott factor here. I wanted to show you guys the mentality of going with a handcuff. And then Marvin Jones, Josh Reynolds. Probably didn't score too high on Josh Reynolds and Desean Watson. I think that's kind of what factored into our C- grade. But towards the last couple of rounds, we're going with guys that we believe in, that have high upside. And that's exactly what Reynolds is. That's what Jones is as well. Watson, he's much more so of a dart throw. But if he pays off, he's probably going to be our starting quarterback. So overall, I think this is a C+ type of roster. I will say wide receiver is a bit worrisome because going from Julio Jones then to Jamar Chase, not ideal. For that reason, I'm not going to go any higher than probably a C+ or a B-. But overall, I'm pretty happy with this roster. Let me know what you guys think, along with any other questions you guys might have. Let me hear it in the comment section. And if you enjoyed, hit that like button, subscribe, give us a follow on Twitter at AllDayPigskin. And keep an eye out for our 2021 ADP Fantasy Football Draft Guide that will be dropping soon. But in the meantime, we'll see you guys in future videos.